GW16 presents a Premier League Draft Fantasy Podcast. Welcome to the Key Pass Collective. Your exclusive source for the information, analysis, and advice you need to dominate your fantasy leagues. Come on in. We've been expecting you.
Draft heads, what is going on? Welcome back to the Key Pass Collective. My name's Joe Williams. I'll be your host for this particular episode. Welcome back. I don't know why it feels like we've been gone for a while, but it just kind of does. I guess we're a day late, but it's fine. We're back, and we are here for the last game week before the break, before the World Cup break, the World Cup that never should have been. Here we are to count down our last game week. Then we've got kind of a breather. We'll be back, and we'll have some episodes over the break. Don't worry. But regardless, it's the last one. Let's make this worth it. Let's get you all prepped for game week 16. Okay, Key Pass Collective. What is it? In case it's your first time listening, we are the audio companion to the Draft Society website. Draft Society has all your ranks, your stats, your articles, everything that you need to dominate the draft fantasy football game. If you're willing, we also have a sort of subscriber-only section called the Inner Circle. You would be supporting an independent fantasy football website. Plus, there's just a bunch of goodies on there. So, player projections, weekly rest of season rankings, fixture difficulty tracker, unique to this game that we play, set piece taker tracker, personalized confidential trade advice, ghost point tracker, and also just a whole lot more as well. So, check that out, draftsociety.com, if you are interested. And we would also just really appreciate the support. You guys are amazing community. You know we love you. But yeah, draftsociety.com is where it's all at. Okay, today we are going to jump into a couple of interesting talking points here that we've been chatting about for the last couple days. The two gentlemen who are joining me today, we've had some backs and forths. How do you pluralize that, Benji? Backs.
Oh man.
Is it back? Would it just be back and forth?
Backs and forth?
Backs and forths.
I don't actually know.
Totti, what's your take?
You're an English guy, aren't you?
I know. I should know this.
Back and forth is idiom on
You're
its
right.
own. So the plural is back and forths.
Oh boy, we're getting schooled. This is great.
You're right.
Get the guy who speaks many languages to tell us how to speak English.
Totti often speaks better English than I do. This is not a rarity. No, it's one of the things I admire most about Totti. I'm fascinated and absolutely astounded by his English skills.
But if our attempt to pronounce back and forth or know what the right expression is a suggestion that I'm ready to argue with Totti, then yeah, absolutely. Let's go.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
just our DMs come to life. That's all it is.
Pretty much.
Co-managing a team, it's like the odd couple. It's,
right.
It's very dorky. Somewhat endearing.
Totti, correct me if I'm wrong, though. I mean, like, you obviously don't know a ton about the American school system, but we don't really teach grammar all that much anymore. It's just not really in the curriculum anymore. Like, direct grammar instruction. It's more through writing and then like coaching kids on how to become better writers, as opposed to like actual grammar instruction. But you went through all that, right, in terms of the English language?
Absolutely, and in terms of the Hungarian language as well. So
sure.
So we have an education system that is based on the Prussian education system, so that is very sort of dry and data based and analysis based.
Okay.
So not like the Anglo and US system. The funny thing was that I don't know if I've told you guys this, when I went to the UK to do GCSEs,
right?
They had these the classes were set up in different educational groups. So like 3 was the middle group and 1 was the best guys and 5 was the least able guys. And I was put in 3 for all of my subjects, and when I went into my first English class, my English teacher asked me if I knew what a verb was, or knew what the subject of the sentence was.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, I'm 16, so usually we study that when we are like 10 in Hungary. Okay, you'll be the only one. That was his answer.
Wow. What?
Yep. That was his answer. So that was my hands-on experience with competence-based learning styles clashing with data-based learning styles.
I like it. Wow. Amazing.
Well, I'm sufficiently intimidated. Let's do this.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so I guess we've alluded to it. Part of what we're going to be doing today is what I've coined the draft debate, and that will be taking place immediately after we have a brief, or maybe not quite so brief, we'll see how long it goes, version of the last straw, because obviously, as it's almost the break, there are a lot of players that we're pretty much ready to give up on, and the question is, should we, right before the break, just send them packing and have some roster space to maybe make some moves either during the break or right afterwards, depending on what happens. And then we'll round it out with some Game Week 16 streamers. So let's kick it right off.
But that's the last straw.
Okay, we good? We're off to the races.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
Nice. All right. So listeners, we just had some a little bit of technical difficulties, but we're back. We're good to go. It is the last straw. These are players that you are almost done with. Players that are not quite droppable. In some cases, like unfortunately so, because it'd be almost easier just to be done with them. So yeah, these are our conundrums that we have at the moment, and we'll talk through some of these and see what each other would do. Maybe give each other some advice, console a little bit, or just a shoulder to cry on, to be honest. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Here we go. We're gonna start with Villa, of course, because a lot of Villa assets right now having a resurgence, really enjoying a nice renaissance of their fantasy value. Tell you who's not. One Emi Buendia, and of course one Phil Coutinho, who just doesn't even play anymore. So let's start with these two. Either of you gentlemen want to weigh in on your thoughts in terms of it being the last straw, or what you would do with either of these players?
I don't know what you can do. I think and I like the fluidity of how we define the last straw.
I know.
The last time I did this with you guys, it was really helpful because it made the conversation a little bit more expansive. But having traded,
it's just guys we talk about.
Yeah,
essentially,
it's for sure.
That doesn't blow off go off the tongue as well. Guys we talk about
no.
as a segment.
Guys
title.
we talk about.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Buendia is like somebody we made a trade for. Now I'm going to revisit. I'm going to do a little anecdote storytelling. We traded my co-manager and I, who's also on this podcast. We traded Leandro Trossard, Emi Buendia, and Brian Mbeumo, and we got in return Jack Grealish. Am I remembering this trade correctly, Totti? And
yeah.
50 some odd fab.
Oh, wow.
Now we used the 50 some odd fab, admittedly, which put us in it gave us the maximum amount of fab in our league, like 110, 100 and something. And it was more than that, but we used 110, long story short, to buy Alexander Isak.
Okay.
So for Trossard, Buendia, and Mbeumo, we got back ultimately Grealish and Isak, and we do still have some of that fab left. We do have some fab left, rather, in the 55 that we got from that trade. Helped to keep some fab, but nonetheless, that's what we ended up with. And Buendia ended up being complete. He's so useless.
Yep.
That now when I think of that trade, I have to remember that he was in there. I constantly think that Trossard alone may have been too much value. We may have given up too much with just Trossard, right, because he's absolutely on one again.
A baller.
But I say all that as a tangent to just say I don't even remember Buendia existing. He's that bad. And a lot of times when we get into these conversations, I reference eye tests because I can tell when I'm talking to my co-manager who's also on this podcast that he doesn't watch as many games as I do sometimes.
Okay.
Which I really appreciate because he'll go, oh, wait a minute, you can think that dude's good, but he actually sucks.
Sure.
But it works both ways. And I find that with a guy like Buendia, if there's two tick boxes, does this person look good in real life? Does this person actually produce in fantasy? He's ticking neither box, and I don't think he has basically all year.
No.
And in you see this kind of poutiness. Like I've watched when they got their asses handed to them by my beloved Newcastle.
Who isn't these days?
He was just so pouty. Oh my God. And it just looked like a guy who, speaking of last straw, he was drawing his own last straw as to whether or not he wanted to continue playing for the club.
Oof.
So I just don't know what you could do with him. He's got no trade value. He is absolutely droppable so I don't know if there's an almost there. That's my little tangent about Buendia. I don't think he can't be almost done with him because I don't know there's much you can do. You could drop him tomorrow or right now and pick him up probably next week.
Yeah. The only almost for me is that he is starting now, and we haven't quite seen what the new manager is going to bring yet. But I mean, all those intangibles, and it's like he's shown you enough at this point, as you mentioned. Like but he wasn't starting for so long in the season, and so I'm tempted to hold, but I don't know. Totti, help me out.
I personally have him in the league where I've held him since draft day, and he's definitely one of those guys who is on the last straw, but not sure what he can do on the last game week before the World Cup, so that I drop him other than a season-ending injury. Because he has a chance and an upside that's so good that I think 2 months, a month and a half training with Unai Emery has the potential for him to kick on.
He's definitely been horrible under multiple managers now, though, so we can say that. Now, granted, one of those was Steven Gerrard, who we're not sure could manage his way out of what's it called, the national conference, the one that Wrexham's in.
I was just going to say paper bag, but yeah.
But it's still it's a super good point to keep him just to see, because Emery hasn't had a single game, right? Is that correct? No, one game, and they beat Manchester United, so might as well. But yeah, he did absolutely nothing in that game.
Yeah, that's my point. I mean, the rest of the Villa players, they're looking good. They're really having this resurgence, love and life at the moment, and he's just doing nothing. I mean, he's not even putting up defensive mid numbers. He's just not involved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah,
I think you could hold him just because you got to see what Emery does.
But you have Brighton, Liverpool, Tottenham.
Yeah, it's like what are the options? Let's go through that. I mean, if there's an option with him, other than dropping him, I don't know if there is one. Is anybody going to trade anything for him?
I mean, yeah, that's a good point. If here's an example, I mean, we talk about him enough, but if Mitoma is on your waiver wire, I would immediately drop Buendia for him. Wouldn't even think about it.
Yeah, for sure.
What about Tavernier or Tavernier, however you want to say it?
I'd rather have him.
Okay, so these are waiver wire level guys.
It's not even that Bournemouth is suddenly super competent, even though they seem to be more competent on the season pre-Emery than Aston Villa. It's just that Tavernier has been more useful. So again, eye test and fantasy relevance. I think Buendia has ticked neither box for a great many moons under multiple managers, and including last year. He was terrible. He wasn't very good last year either.
Yeah. What about Joe Aribo under a new manager?
Totti, you want to do something with Joe Rebo?
No, not at all. Nothing.
Yeah, I would say the same.
I think it was Genie who put up a tweet, or maybe it was in our Draft Society chat that he wrote that Aribo is one of the very few mainstays in his free agent FC,
Yeah.
and I had to do a double take on like why.
All right. Up next, of course, we've got Dwight McNeil, everybody's favorite. I think I spent
Never heard of him.
I think I spent 70 fab on him. I don't want to talk about it.
But you've dropped him, right? You've dropped him.
Yeah, sure. Yep. Definitely.
I mean,
this is a really, really odd one because points per start, I was actually surprised that he's pretty decent going by useful draft metrics. It's like he's in that Brian Mbumo, Joachim Anderson, Christian Eriksen. He's in that territory, but overall, because of like not starting is a problem, of course. Yeah, like I don't know, like do you stash him and just hope that he stops sucking? But like if he's dependent at all on like having a useful center forward, then you're also going to be waiting a lot longer because DCL's hurt again. It's like, oh my god.
So you're not a Mope believer then? That's what you're saying.
I have notes on him.
All right,
save for later.
No, I mean the thing about McNeil is like, yes, I've held him foolishly, but also I have a pretty good.
Held him in your arms.
Yes,
like
cradled him.
Yes, I've held him. Yeah, I've rocked him.
But now suddenly it looks like at least for this week he's going to get a run out again, and I'll play him against Bournemouth. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, he's going to get a run out with Mopai though. That's the
right.
thing. I don't know. And that team still just seems bereft of endeavor. As that sounds like something that English people would say.
I really like it. And and of course the endeavor would be an OUR.
Yeah, exactly. I'm writing this down.
Good.
Give me a second. I don't know, Totti, you got a kink for Dwight McNeil? What's up? I'm sure you do. It seems like a kind of guy you'd be like, I believe in. Yeah, come on. What do you got? Dwight McNeil, hit us.
I believe in Dwight McNeil.
Wow.
Yep. I'm a.
Is that like a Texan accent? What was that?
It was.
I believe.
It was just the accent I exclusively use when I fawn over Dwight McNeil.
Okay,
Classic.
all right. Forget
it.
But seriously, are you into him?
I am. I think he has, as opposed to one Joe Aribo, he has the both the EPL and the draft fantasy pedigree to become a good fantasy asset. Obviously, I think we are looking at Lampard's Everton in a different light because of how other teams have shed the bed even worse than Everton has. But Everton are not good. They're not playing well. They're not. He hasn't figured out anything really, and I'm holding McNeil in the faint hope of either him figuring something out that involves McNeil or a future change in managers.
Interesting. He's doing some of in his starts, and he's doing some of the McNeely things. I mean, he's 20th in successful take-ons.
Yeah, but he was first last year.
Given how many minutes he's played, it seems like he's still per minute basis. He's getting his dribble on.
Yeah,
not crossing for literally anything. He's got 2 successful crosses all year.
Yeah.
I think if
Yeah.
DCL were there, I would feel better. But every time DCL gets hurt, and who knows if he's ever even going to play again, I think he feels like he's center forward dependent, and it's the attack in general, and their attack has been really bad.
Yeah, it's the fact that it hasn't been figured out, which is, I mean, I think decent up. I don't know how to put it. Level up from Lampard, because everyone was expecting him to be okay in attack and then be very bad in defense, and Everton have been the other way around, which hurts McNeil, hurts everyone on Everton, hurts Gordon even more, I think, arguably. He has been very bad. Robbie has him in the colds for a reason. So yeah, currently there's not much excitement about Everton's attack.
I mean, I'm keeping him for this week. Everton have kind of a crisis going on with injuries. I'm gonna trot him out against Bournemouth if he starts and just see what happens. And after that, I think I don't know. I would entertain the possibility.
That's a great shout. Yeah, it's a great shout because I've got notes on streaming options and that it includes Everton because, of course, they're facing Bournemouth. Right. So there you go.
Yep.
Yeah. So all right.
Who they have lost to midweek?
Exactly. Yeah, that's funny.
Revenge game.
There you go. All right. I like it. That's the narrative. We'll spin. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Jack Harrison. We got to talk about him. He had an incredibly disappointing week last week, and not just because he scored 4.5 in 45 minutes, which isn't great, but like was leading to a decent ghost point return. But more importantly, he got yanked at 45 because he was completely ineffective, and the team from there kicked on and won 4-3 against the aforementioned Bournemouth. And Harrison looks to be one of the big losers of last game week. Also, he's just been shit. So
real. That's beware if you look under the hood guy, because
that's burying the lead.
Yeah. Now the talk of the town boy Nyonto is going to be like maybe replacing him, because if you look at the under the hood, you find that he's still 25th overall among midfielders. Or is that overall that might be period. I can't remember if that's all players or just midfielders, but 67 of his 115 points came in the first 3 game weeks.
Yeah, he hasn't had a double-digit return since August.
Right, he's averaged in 8 starts since game week 3. He's averaged 5.3 points per start. Like, even if he were averaging 5.3 ghost points, you'd feel like sick in your soul. But then you'd look and go, oh, that's because he doesn't have any attacking returns in those last 8 starts. Like, it's super bad.
Wow. He's 48th overall. Yeah.
Okay, 48th overall. So it's
you were looking at midfield.
25th among midfielders.
But he is one behind.
But you wouldn't be expect to be talking about a 25th overall midfielder and dropping him, but then you look and find that all of his points came in the first 3 game weeks, which is another player we're going to talk about that has all of his output in the first 3 game weeks. But yeah, it's nasty.
Yeah. You can't. I mean, is there enough name value there that you're not dropping him?
Oh, I think you're trying to trade him. I have a note that if I'm trying to trade out, and this is a sneak preview of a person we're going to talk a lot about, I think. Rodrigo Bentancur. Take it, just, throw it out there. See if an opposing manager is like, oh, defensive midfielders, don't like those. Especially if they have Totti's voice. And then you can kind of be like, I might have something here. Maybe I could get Bentancur for Jack Harrison. Or Iwobi, who's cooled off a little bit. The aforementioned Mbumo, who's now on penalties because Mr. Tony might be facing a possible ban. We'll see what's going on there. Yeah, so that's what I would try to do, and I don't think and hope that it works, because a lot of times managers are fairly seduced, especially with that. You get one of those Americans who thinks that Harrison's American, even though he's not, and then you just kind of slide into some DMs, get them all hyped up. Well, he went to boarding school in the U.S. at one point or something. Played for the didn't he play for the New York's Manchester City team or something? Yeah. Anyway, so he's got some American connection, I know, and he plays for Leeds. So then people are like, he must be American because he plays for Leeds. Just play it up, go for it. See what you can get for him. But if anybody does look under the hood, they're going to be horrified.
Right. Yeah.
Because it doesn't take a mathematician. Trust me, I'm not very good at that sport, math. And 5.3 points per start in his last 8 starts sticks out. You can kind of deduce
anybody who's had him on their roster, I mean, knows the struggle. I don't know that you're convincing anybody, to be honest. Like you said, yeah, maybe. The odd person here and there who doesn't, like the guy in your league who doesn't really follow along all that well and sometimes doesn't start a full lineup. But other than that, I mean,
or you get a lead supporter, you get somebody who, and they might, and by the way, and they might be right. They look at his historic overall and they go, this is just a slump. They tell themselves that form is temporary, class is permanent. Jack's going to come good. He's American, and then you slide into their DMs.
Weird story you've created.
It's how I negotiate. I create a straw man, and then
your stream of consciousness style is fascinating. You're like the fantasy football version of William Faulkner.
Well, hey, the truth is, everybody has these moments of looking at their fantasy assets and just doting on them, even though they're clearly shit. And you're like, you should have moved on.
Yeah.
And we will talk about this. There's these players in there. The co-manager and I, who's on this podcast, we will talk about these players we dote on and should have moved on from.
Totti, any final thoughts on Harrison?
I don't think you can trade him for the value that he still may possess. I drafted him last season, and if you remember or are able to toggle the little drop-down menu to last season's stats in the player sheet or whatever that's called, he started even worse than
he did. He was garbage.
Than he has been doing the past couple of months, and I actually dropped him. And then he went on that amazing run mid-season, where he just put up 20 points every day. And I think this is a different Leeds team than the one that we knew he could perform in with Bielsa. But then again, this is a player who has, again, I'm saying the same thing with as I did with McNeil, has some sort of EPL pedigree, can score well. I don't think I agree. If you can trade him out, it's the play to do. But I just can't see a 1-for-1 that a manager trying to get him in would be willing to give up. No, I wouldn't give him up for guys that I'd be dropping in the upcoming 2 or 3 game weeks. So
the weird thing about this guy, if you look at last year, he does. It is similar. He's super boomer busty.
I was just looking at that.
I mean, you can, dude, you can find a run last year. And if you started game week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. In the first 9 games of last year, he had 1 double-digit outing. And then, but it's not like it then is all of a sudden smooth sailing. And then in his next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, he has 1 double-digit outing. But then he burns off a 21, a 39, a 12, and you're like, oh, he's back. But he's still capable of those weeks of crap, especially as Leeds' fortunes kind of come and go, which as we all know, they do often under Marsh or under Bielsa. So really crazy player.
Do you know what I think we're
know.
finding out? I think we're just finding out that he was.
You're probably stuck with him.
Yeah, and that also his fantasy, the perception of his fantasy value is wildly inflated, or was coming into the season. Probably because you look at his overall numbers, and obviously it gives you that perception. But I think he was probably way overdrafted or drafted way too early for the actual type of player that he is. When you look at the fantasy numbers,
and he gives you the type of output that you'd expect from a very like forward playing winger, etc. But he's classified as a midfielder, so that's the part that's just like gives him so much more value too. Is you could stash him and feel a little bit better about it because he's a midfielder. It's just so crazy what the tag of being a forward does. It ruins your value.
I think the main takeaway for someone like Harrison is that when he goes on that run, trade him out immediately.
Yeah,
because you'll be like, he will have a run of 2 to maybe max 5-6 games where he'll be on fire. And if you trade him out after 2 games and he has another 3 that are on fire, then you're still getting value back, and he'll fall off after that. Obviously, you will want to trade him out at the end of a run like this, like the one that he had in August. But just like Joe said, he started the season overdrafted. He then went on and put up like round 1 value points in the first 3 game weeks. Imagine what you could have gotten for him after 3 game weeks, and that is what I always try to.
That's when you want to sell, yeah.
I always try to sell high, like even obviously you don't want to get stuck with players in their rut, and people are. But I think people are more afraid of losing value than getting stuck with players on their rut. But I think losing value is less prevalent because you are actually gaining similar perceived rest of season value in a trade. Whereas if he's going down like he is now, then his value plummets to 0.
Well, yeah, because the likelihood right now is that you're going to get offered back because he's at the bottom of like perceived value given this run of form. You're going to get back a poo-poo platter for him.
Exactly. Like
so you might as well. So therefore, you might as well keep him. Because even if he continues to perform badly, well, he's going to be on par with the poo-poo platter that you were offered. But if he blows up and gets one of those 2 or 3 games, which, by the way, historically, these runs are not 2 to 5 or 6. They're more like 2. Right. He taps out after he does two games, and then he's like back to single digits. So get one game, hopefully 2, and then try to trade him.
Exactly. And it's so as opposed to him being on the last straw, he is on the last straw on your own team. But he's also a buy low? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
Because you can offer a poo-poo platter.
Because you can offer the poo-poo platter. Yeah, totally. Somebody has a poo-poo platter they're offering. And by the way, the poo-poo platter is not the people I mentioned. If you can get a Bentancur and maybe an Iwobi, that might be too low. I think you might be able to do better than Iwobi.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
Really? Yeah. Well, in that case, I would rather have Harrison than Iwobi.
Would you really? Interesting.
I think so. That's how little I trust the track record and how much I don't trust Everton. Sure. I don't know. Yeah.
I'd rather trust Leeds to to put together a competent
a dynamic attack and
exactly
continue either winning or losing 4-3.
Yeah. Exactly.
Which you're not going to get that out of Everton.
Interesting. All right. Is that good on Harrison? Have you got anything else? Okay,
That's
all
good.
right, beautiful. Okay, so yeah, I mean that's another conundrum right there. Obviously,
Joe, you're gonna hate me because I don't follow
Yeah,
your
it's fine.
rules very well
I don't.
because I have my own notes, and then I don't like you guys seeing the stuff
yeah.
I come up with. You know, so I got a player. Can I throw one in? So last weekend, I've been traveling a little bit, so Totti's been doing the lion's share of co-managing our team. And we have a decision to make as to whether to start one Matthias Jensen or Somerville.
Say his full name.
I can't even tell. I
say
can't even
his
tell this,
full name.
I can't tell the story right now.
Say his full name.
I'm starting to get flush. It's too recent. What? Crescencio?
Yes.
How do you say it?
That's exactly what it is.
Put some respect on that name.
I'm
The
trying.
man's first name is goddamn poetry.
I don't even want to say it because I don't feel like I'm worthy of it. Because here's what the decision
Sounds like a character
was.
out of Romeo and Juliet. He's amazing.
We had a last straw conversation. It's Crescencio Somerville or it's Matthias Jensen, and we had a last straw conversation about Matthias Jensen. And it was like, just don't trust that Somerville's going to be boom or bust. Let's just one more chance for Jensen, who has not produced a goal or an assist since game week 3. He's another one of these up to game week 3. He looked like the real deal, blah, blah, blah. Well, we lost by 14 points.
And you started Jensen.
And we started Jensen, who did grab an assist, but he only finished with the 9.5 points. Somerville had 28, including 13 ghost points, dude. So I would say that Jensen he's on last straw territory, and I suspect that last straw is going to be picked up and off the table and used to stab him in the throat repeatedly, because he has slipped to 120th in ghost points according to useful draft metrics. His 1 goal and 2 assists came in the first 3 weeks, very similar to Jack Harrison. And the only saving grace to that player anymore is that he's still on more than 50% of set pieces. He's still averaging 7.3 ghosts per 90, which puts him at I don't know, not great. It is not good. He does get those goofy ghost points like interceptions and tackles and stuff that you probably don't want out of midfield players. More on that later. But I think I get something if you can. But it's probably worse than Harrison because he does not have any kind of track record for big boom and bust type of games. He had 2 early on in the season, but right now it's looking like last chance saloon and or drop him. I don't know. I'm curious what Totti thinks. Should we just drop him or what are you thinking?
Well, I think I found, or obviously we still have a segment that is upside versus non-upside, but we have talked about this debate all the way through the last straw as well. The way our management duo, so to say, works is that I try to bring in guys who have a chance to score a goal. Or get an assist and get 10, 15, whatever. And Benji tries to persuade me to play the guy who is almost guaranteed 7 points.
Let's not put it that way. Let's put it more into I like ghost points. I like you need a medley of these things. But your tendency is to definitely have more punts than I would, for sure.
Yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with one of the now long-running article that we put out every year in a bit of a reworked way in our draft kit, and I am the proud owner of that article, and it says. Draft for first or last, not for mid-table. And I think this is essentially what we're talking about. Essentially, if you we have had some absolutely horrid luck with our teams and with our streams as well.
Very bad.
But
Very, very bad.
But that has resulted in us scoring like in the high 40s or something like that, or 60 or something like that. My way of going about setting up a team for a game week is essentially if you are close to your opponent in projected scores, then obviously do the little shimmying around and whatever. But if Foden, your round 2 pick, is benched, Madison is suspended, and Isak, who you've spent most of your fab on,
and Foden was benched,
injured. Yeah, Foden's benched. Then you have a literal mountain to climb. So
it's such a good point. Just a little more scrutiny, I think, would have led to that decision of we have enough going wrong here that we need a puncher's chance at winning this match, and it's not going to come via Matthias Jensen, for Christ's sake.
It's never going to come via Matthias Jensen. Like he's the one that gets our team to a consistent level of 85 points. We will end up the season 4-34 if we are scoring 85 every week.
Sure.
Yeah, well, we also couldn't count on, and this may be a segue to another player I have on my list. We could not have counted on. This one hurts too. First of all, the red card to Cancelo. We also couldn't have counted on a 63-minute outing by Jack Grealish that led to 0 points. So you can't drop him. So there's no last straw. There's no dropping him. But, dude, that trade in retrospect. He's got 6 starts. He has 1 goal and 1 assist. He's not even on the Ghost Point tracker because he doesn't have enough starts. But here's a hint. If he were on that list, he'd be tied with Diego Llorente, Alexis McAllister, and Andres Pereira at like 63rd. So he's not getting goals. He's not getting assists. His Ghost Points are like, meh, and he only has 6 starts. And when you watch him with the eye test, we're going to do the 2 tick box thing real quick. He is just prancing around, going backwards and doing nothing. And it's just the prancing pony thing. I swear, I can't even watch him just as a person who likes this sport, let alone as somebody who's counting on him, given what we gave up for him, and watching Trossard just, of course, go on a tirade. Grealish, man, not great. And if you roster him, you probably are stuck and cannot get much for him anyways. And you're really praying you've got somebody who likes City in your league. Anybody got anything on Jack Grealish? Because I'm. Ugh.
I think City, like, we have a lot of City assets, and a lot of our listeners have a lot of City assets as well, because I think they are the team that has the most rostered players. Like, everyone is rostering every City player and every City
just in case they start.
Well.
That's true.
So it is a relevant point, and if you have a look at how or the way City have been getting their points, it's very top heavy. Like, before this 3-game benching, it was Erling Haaland in superhuman territory, KDB, Foden, Cancelo, and nobody else.
Right.
Like City can be winning 3-4 goals by 3-4 goals, and the pulling power of Erling Haaland and KDB of all the fantasy points is so great that they are just not distributing enough to anyone else, be it attacking return or fantasy point or ghost point. So I'm expecting that due to just how a 38 game season unfolds, there will be some changes to how City operate, and it will benefit the guys who are not scoring well right now. So, I'm
going to push back because Gundogan and Bernardo Silva are Bernardo Silva is 32 overall in scoring. Gundogan is 46. So those dudes are doing
look at their
plenty
scores though.
with the scrap.
look at the scores.
With the scraps that they're
they
getting.
have Jack
No, I know, I
Harrison
understand,
scores.
but I'm comparing this to Grealish. Like,
Sure.
Grealish is still getting opportunities and doing absolutely fuck all with his opportunities.
But that's Toddy's point, though. Like Bernardo, Gundogan, and Grealish to a certain extent, right? These are all players that last year, they needed to produce goals at certain times from different places, and they really needed everybody to contribute. And now it's just that's not the case anymore. And so you've got guys who, they're out there and they're giving it their all, but it's just like the offensive output doesn't rely on them anymore like it used to. They don't actually have to have moments of brilliance anymore because you've got Haaland who can come on as a sub and score a freaking brace. Like it's superhuman what he does. And so it's honestly just like these guys don't need to contribute in the ways they used to. So I think a lot more of their work goes to just keeping the ball, keeping possession, passing, quick passes, and a lot of times they're the pass before the assist.
Yeah, I agree, and I think we were buying low on Grealish when we did that trade, and to some extent, if we didn't do that trade then, I would be even more adamant on buying even lower on Grealish right now. Unfortunately, I jumped at that opening in all of my leagues, so I have Grealish in almost all of my leagues. But I think for me, he's still a buy low.
Ryan. I need Ryan. Let's call in Ryan. I need to back up.
He's doing.
Dude's wedding is tomorrow. We're not going to call Ryan.
I need him to. Is it really tomorrow?
It is.
Oh, that's super cool. But I need him to parachute in to shit on Grealish with me because
no.
I'm hearing what you guys are saying. I get it. Haaland is the heliocentric player that blah blah blah. But Gundogan's still getting points. Foden's getting points in his starts. Silva's getting points in his starts. The one guy who's in there and is up in that attack, but still decides to go backwards every time and do little cute layoffs.
You're not wrong
Grealish.
about that.
He's profligate. The definition of it.
I actually do not agree with that, and the points do not back that take, because the amount of points that Bernardo Silva has on Grealish is just his attacking returns. And obviously, he's getting some attacking returns, but he's played much more, and he has been integrated into the team at a much earlier point.
Okay, let's take it a different direction. At what point do we all go, all right, it's year 2. This was the year where he was supposed to no longer suck. And it's still pretty sucky.
I agree with that completely.
At what point do we go? And I'm only talking about fantasy output, by the way. I'm not, this is not me talking like the way he can hold up play, the way he can draw it and create, free kicks. Great. Totally fine. He's a masterful player with laying it off for someone else. At what point do we just go, this is not usable for, what's this website called? Hang on a second. Fantrax.com. He's not very good for that. At what
I
point?
think
At what point? When does he run out of excuses?
never.
Okay. God, it just doesn't matter. All right, that's
There you
quite
go.
an answer.
Moving on. No, go ahead, Todd.
Are
Okay,
we
moving on.
Is like the same question is I think it's the same question to every city I said, barring the 4 that I mentioned. Riyad Mahrez. What do you make of Riyad Mahrez?
Nothing.
He's at least proven it before. Not this year, and that's fine for various reasons. Trust from the manager, blah blah blah. But he's at least done it before. He was what, 5th overall scorer or something crazy.
I can't
last
believe
year.
he hasn't been dropped.
He wasn't 5th overall scorer last year. Last year he started 15 games and he was like 70.
When was the year he had a
something.
really good year? Was the year before that? But Jack Grealish has not done it for City. Period. Like he hasn't.
Jack
done anything.
Grealish has not done it for City. I will.
That's
give
what I'm
you
saying.
that.
When
I
do we
will-
stop making excuses for Jack Grealish? But we can move on. I won.
No, you can't just not let Totti
Let the- hey,
speak.
view-
Excuse me.
Let the
Excuse
viewer
me.
decide.
Excuse me. I wanted to make a drop for our debate section and just have it be that. Excuse me. Excuse me. Maybe next time.
This will go on because we co-manage a team that has that player on it, and yeah,
I'm like, I still believe, like, I would say the moment we stop believing that Jack Grealish has something to offer is when he starts not starting, like a long periods of time. But then again, it's the same with Riyad Mahrez. Like I think I was the lowest on him coming into the season, and now everyone else is quite low on him. But when you get to, like, if you were drafting today, when you get to like round 6-ish, you'd still want the Grealish, the Mahrez, the Bernardo type of players, because they at least have they have minutes on the team that is like producing 3 goals a game week.
Yeah.
You want minutes there. The fact that I think it's less production, it's more expectation management that we need to change with these
Okay,
players.
but so none of this is actionable advice. So are you are you
That's good.
Are you, if you're a listener to this show and you currently roster Grealish,
You're still listening.
and you're still listening, and you roster Grealish, or maybe you roster Silva or Gundogan, if you agree with me and Totti about the general peripheral players around KDB and Holland this year, or just generally for you, Benji and Grealish, like what are you literally doing? I mean, you're just sitting on him, right? You're not dropping him.
you're trying to get
at an all-time low.
You're trying to. Yeah, well, it's like, when is it going to turn around? It's he had a goal in week 3 or whatever it was, and hasn't done anything since. Like that's what I would be trying to do. If I'm doing anything, that is, because it's the one point that's well made, and it's very difficult to move away from, and it's why every single City player is owned, is that you don't know when there's going to be a game where you could stick me out there,
right?
And the ball caroms off of Holland, and my knee bonks it into the goal, because that's how quickly City can get firing and put 5 past, Southampton. So you're probably keeping him for that reason alone. But if you could get that high round value, you should, because where he's at right now, after game week, what we're on 16, he's in the 150 range. Like it's not great.
Yeah, I agree. It's not great. I agree fully on that. Yeah, you're not going to get an argument from me. That's why I'm losing 4 games in the last 5 in most of my leagues. Well, not because of Jack Grealish, but he's definitely not.
He's part of the reason. Certainly part of the reason. Yeah. Okay. All right. Nice.
So, but again, just like with Harrison, and even more so than with Harrison, I cannot see a trade that I would be comfortable doing as a Grealish manager.
Yeah, right.
Very likely true.
I think, yeah. Unfortunately, I think you're sitting on him at this point. Interesting. Okay. Well, let's do a couple more last straws, and then we'll move into our debate quick because we're getting long winded, but that's fine. That's what people expect from us. So let's talk Jadon Sancho quickly, just to make Genie happy. But ironically, this is a player even Genie has given up on. Somebody who used to sing his praises, and at this point has given up on him. I think we all know, at least from his being on the show, for 30 minutes here and there, that Genie moves on from players very quickly and will cut players just ruthlessly. So I believe that he has, I think I'm not wrong about this, I think in every league that he has Sancho, he's already cut him. So that's his solution to this last straw question. But what about for you guys?
Would he drop him as in not even try to make a trade, you mean? Or just like...
He dropped Sterling in the league.
I mean, okay. Let's do a C also as a segue off of Grealish, right? Like Grealish post Villa has done not anything near what you would hope based on ADP, etc. Sancho is starting to show like this might be who he is in the Premier League. He's not the dude we saw for BVB. He's like averaging 7.7 and now 7.8 points per game in 30 starts in the Premier League. Maybe that's just who he is. And we have to realize that's the player. That is it. That's the guy. And that does not seem like a very valuable asset. Now, dropping is crazy unless you're in a 10-team league, because in our league, you would still want that player because what you get for a streamer in midfield is, speaking of poo-poo platters, you would be grabbing him immediately. So I can't imagine dropping him in a 12-team league. Can you guys?
Yes.
Oh wow.
I think
for who though? For what?
It would have to be something juicy out there. Like I would have to be in a conundrum. But if it was like a game week where I needed someone to start and he was the guy, I mean, yeah, I'd be fine dropping him, honestly. Like.
For a stream, you mean, right?
Would you drop him for Somerville?
Ooh.
Yeah, you'd kind of have to at this point. Or I would.
Probably, yeah. I think so.
But I'm assuming Somerville's rostered, so it's like that's not even possible.
4.9
but he was
points per start.
He's rostered now for sure in our league.
Okay, so Joe, here's why I asked.
We dropped him.
I'll look at our league.
We lost.
This is just our league, admittedly. A 12-team league, pretty competitive league. Let's all admit it's competitive. Like, people pay attention, so it's not like there's good players in the free agent wire. But like, the two best players that you can get in midfield right now, just midfield, admittedly, are Conte and Norgard, because both of them have
injuries.
Like, one's not playing and one's injured for the rest of his life,
and neither are scoring well.
No. Yeah. The player you're gonna get is Tyler Adams, Mark Roca, Lallana. More notes on him soon. Douglas Luiz. Like that's who you'd be dropping Jadon Sancho if you were trying to do a like for like replacement.
Yeah, but
midfield. That's not fair. So like these players don't sound good. I will admit that. But one Somerville was one of those players who did not sound good 2 weeks ago.
That's a good point. He's only 22% rostered right now.
Mitoma was someone who nobody had heard of except for anyone who's listening to us and reading our articles like 3 weeks ago. And they're guys who we wouldn't even bet an eyelid over dropping Sancho for. So there is value there. We don't know for sure which one of the players that you mentioned is gonna be the next hot guy to be taken up. But if you're talking about dropping Sancho for a potential stream, then he's definitely past the last straw, and you're only keeping him on because there's nothing else better there. But once there is something that pops its head up, you are doing the drop as soon as possible.
So when you're saying pop a head up, you're talking that's your Somerville or your Mutomos.
Yeah.
There's another one that I would throw in there potentially. Curious what you two think of this guy, but Romeo Lavia, would you keep an eye on him?
No.
Okay.
You just love your DMs, don't you?
Big Southampton Nathan Jones
we'll
fan
get
over
there
here.
soon enough. We'll get there soon enough. No. Okay, all right. Maybe I'm not dropping Sancho. Maybe I was too abrupt. Maybe I'm not dropping him. I guess I'm gonna try to trade him. Oh God, it's another one of these exact same. They're all the same player, right? Everyone we've talked about is the same freaking player. Like it's the guy who's just like underperforming so much that you just kind of think, well, shit, I guess this is him now. Like, and there really isn't a light at the end of the tunnel. They've given us nothing to think that, oh, don't worry, this is just a slump. Because every time you mentioned the eye test a lot, Benji, and so does Jeannie loves the eye test. Anytime you watch them, you're like, no, they just don't have it this year. It's not in their locker. And so you start to just kind of be like, well, should I trade Sancho out for, I don't know, fucking like.
The good news is we're not done talking about these players because we have another really, really big one to talk about.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're probably stuck with him because the trade value is almost non-existent, and if you drop him, you're not going to get. There's not much. If you're in a 12-team league, if you're in a 10-team league, there's probably some pretty good punts. / Somerville's only 22% rostered. So,
would you trade out Sancho for a Iwobi?
I would. Yes, that's a really good one.
Like if I could do Sancho +1 for James Ward-Prowse, something like that is like juicy as hell, right? Like I think that's what listeners should try to do, is try to package this and go for someone else who is, yes, admittedly slumping, but at the same time, I have hope for JWP at the very least.
Yeah. And you got the pens and free kicks all day long.
Yeah. Someone like that.
There's very little of that upside with Sancho. Yeah.
Maybe.
And he clearly doesn't have, this is the biggest thing about Sancho. He clearly does not have that ability to separate from defenders the way he did in Bundesliga. It's just the Premier League has proven way too much on the physicality side for him to just dominate fullbacks. He just doesn't.
He's a little guy.
Yeah.
Such a shame.
Such a shame.
Like the dude.
Pour one out for Sancho.
Yeah, the dude was an absolute baller for Dortmund, and he has the ability to be up there with in the conversation with the best players of the Premier League, and he just had to go to this shit club that is ruining everything that it touches. Like I know I might alienate some of our listeners, but the systemic problems at United since Sir Alex left are just mind blowing, and we had this back and forth on our chat when there were those 4 days when Ten Hag was viewed by the United fans as the ultimate disciplinarian because he sent Ronaldo to the reserves and then subbed off Anthony for doing the Rondo thing that he did. And United fans were just out of their minds that they have their identity and their big bad boss back. We see what happened since then.
Oh, you mean when he made Ronaldo the captain?
Yes, and has played 90 minutes, three games in a row, offering literally nothing.
I remember the way I put this when they got Bruno, and I wasn't paying attention to the sport for a few months before that. And this is right before the pandemic, right?
Yep.
And then I caught some of their matches with Bruno, and he was so brilliant. They were so capable, and it was like, and it kind of made me mad because I was like, I really enjoyed watching United be terrible as somebody who started watching the Premier League in like 1995, 6 in the Alan Shearer era, like Chris Sutton and that time period. And they were always so dominant. I always just destroying my beloved Newcastle, squeaky bum time, all that shit. And it just disappeared so much once Ferguson retired, and I loved it. And it was back. Like they were back. They were so intimidating with Bruno for like that few month run. Boy, it just disappeared as quick as it came. They've just been a trash fire ever since.
A trash fire. Yeah.
Yeah, let's not dish or diss on United anymore. All of our teams have their downsides and their bad periods. So to those United fans that are sufferable and are our friends, it will get better. It will get better. To the rest, haha.
Wow, that took a turn.
I did not expect that either.
Oh. Hey, the route to success for my team was just get bought by a sovereign wealth fund. That seems to be
Liverpool are about to do the same thing. So
it looks like
for Liverpool too. Yeah, no problem.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Everything is awful.
That's awesome. The world is owned by like literal evil superpowers. It's pretty great. So anyway, at least United have like actual human beings that own them. I guess you could say that. Not that they really care about the club very much, but
I don't know.
I wouldn't.
My running 2 cents on this
wouldn't
has always
classify them
been
as human beings.
if you have if you have billions of dollars, chances are you did a few things you shouldn't have to get there. So
yeah. I was just gonna say I wouldn't say that the Glazers are much better than any sovereign wealth fund.
Yeah. We're all doomed. Let's be honest. Christ. All right. Well, since we're already talking about things that are such a bummer, let's go ahead and move on to Raheem Sterling and the main event for the evening here. So Raheem Sterling is the one that actually kicked off what is basically our main segment or our next segment, which inspired our debate, because Raheem Sterling is the one that kind of got us talking about floor versus upside, and particularly Benji, I believe your comment was that you would 100% right now trade Rodrigo Bentancur in and give Raheem Sterling. So I just want to set the table really quickly because our boy Robbie at A Team of Karas, amazing dude, stat head, just awesome, updates all of our tables and everything for the site. He gave us this information on Raheem Sterling. In his 6 starts for Tuchel, Sterling averaged 9.8 points per start, 4.6 ghost points per start. Under Potter, this is reduced to just 3.6 points per start, 4.4 ghost points per start. He hasn't even managed to increase his ghost point output in that wingback role to offset the lack of attacking returns. He's had a steep drop-off in terms of expected goals and assists too. Under Tuchel, he was generating 0.37 XG and 0.23 XA per start. Under Potter, that's decreased to 0.16 XG and 0.1 XA. So I know this is still the last straw segment, but obviously tying into our discussion that we're going to have on floor versus upside, because Benji, you stating that you would trade Bentancur in for Sterling, you're making the case that you would rather somebody who's just going to get you base points every week with the potential of maybe a little spike here and there, as opposed to somebody who is just shitting the bed week after week after week.
I'm gonna lean on you guys for some help, because this is a real life story. It's happening in the Community League in the Brady Bunch division, I think it's called. The manager is named Sigurd Bjorn, I don't think he'd
Oh,
care
yeah.
if I outed him
Love
because it's
Sigurd.
kind of fun. This is good.
That guy's
This is
great.
good
He's
shit.
fantastic.
So Sigurd offered me. Oh man, I can't remember who he offered first. He offered somebody else first, but he offered 2 different trades, both for Rodrigo Bentancur. The first one I can't remember. I have to go look at decline trades, but maybe I'll do that when you guys are chiming in. But
Wait,
the next one
you have Bentancur?
I have Bentancur, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And he has Raheem Sterling. And I was trying to catch up on recent goings on. See, there's the phrase I was looking for. The whole plural thing in Bob you do. Why is it goings on, but it's not the backs and
Another
forth?
thing is,
Anyway.
really quickly, attorneys general. I love that. I love
there
that.
you go,
that.
dude.
Anyway,
Exactly.
yeah,
yes. Or Brothers
Oh,
Karamazov
very
or whatever.
good.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that was for you. Stroke my English literature guy. So that offer was made, and I was like, all right, I'm going to lean into my homies. So I asked you guys, it's like, why'd you do that? And at first I was thinking, of course I'm going to take Sterling. But then I looked under the hood. So 2 things I'm going to look for help from you guys on. One, I've not been watching very much Chelsea. Good for you. Which I should, because I would enjoy watching them crash and burn. But has he really used him as a wing back?
Yes.
Jesus Christ. So before he left Brighton, he was using Trossard, which is partly why we were interested in trading Trossard, by the way.
Yeah.
So I looked under the hood and found that Bentancur is a really odd player. I don't think he's as easily classifiable as just a classic 6 or, CDM. He gets up there. He likes to dribble. He gets KPs. He takes the occasional shot. Like he's a I think a kind of classically mercurial midfielder, Uruguayan player. Like he's got some stuff. He's got juice to him. He's just not a all out CDM. And then I looked at the numbers and it backed all that up as far as like his output. Like Sterling's on 3 goals and an assist. Has had neither of those since August 30th, by the way. So he's gone like over 2 months with a dry spell.
Bad. My God.
So bad, dude. Goals per 90, according to Useful Draft Metrics. Sterling's at 186th with 5.2. Wow. Bentancur is in 46th with 8.1. Sterling has 6 shots on target this entire year to Bentancur's 5. Bentancur is in 13th with 17 successful dribbles to Sterling in 47th with 11. And Bentancur's only played 100 more minutes. They're at 949 and 1,088 respectively. So I don't know. I am inclined to currently, unless I hear otherwise, but boy, was it Robbie you said that gave you that data?
It's damning.
Good Christ. I'm inclined to decline that offer, especially now that you've told me that Potter's doing his shenanigans and trying him as a wing back.
What say you, Totti?
Totti, the floor is yours.
Okay. Well, I'd like to caveat my my tangent before I go on it, because I do not like Sterling. I do not think that he is a buy low in a sense that the guys we had been talking about are. Okay. I do not expect him to replicate or to go get close to what his round 1 valuation was on draft day. But that said, I still will say that he is someone that I think should be considered for Rodrigo Bentancur. And here's my argument. The metric that I want to highlight is expected points per 90. And this is using our very own Useful Draft Metrics data. The expected points per 90 for Rodrigo Bentancur is 9.0. The expected points per 90 for Raheem Sterling is 8.4 so far. The actual points per 90 for Bentancur is 10.3. So he's overperforming his expected points per 90, whereas Sterling's is 7.7, who is underperforming his points per 90. I want you to make note of this. The second argument I will put forth is a twofold argument of teams of the two teams involved and of the two systems involved. So Rodrigo Bentancur, just as Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, and to some extent Yves Bissouma, have been tasked with carrying the attacking load in Conte's system that is primarily in historical sense based on attacking through very competent and very attacking minded fullbacks. It was so far in the first 15 games of the season, I think it's safe to say that the right side of Spurs' defense or attack, however you want to put it, the right-sided fullbacks have been absolute garbage, and the left-sided have not been much better. They have been a bit better, but not been much better. We have not seen the magic touch of turning Victor Moses into perennial double-digit point getter. We have not seen the fullback use from Conte that resulted in every manager scrambling to get Zappacosta on their lineup in the 3 games that he started for Chelsea under Conte. So I was
one of those. I remember those days.
Yeah, I was one of those as well. And it was because essentially anyone playing a Conte fullback was guaranteed a shit ton of points. It is not the case right now.
It's basically Perisic, and that's about it.
Exactly. And my argument downgrading Bentancur is that the injury at the start of the season to Doherty killed any chance of him becoming a decent fantasy asset in this first stretch of the season. Emerson Royale is... I don't want to talk about Emerson Royale.
Nobody does.
Nobody does. And Perisic, even before the season started, Conte said that he's not going to be able to play week in, week out. And we've seen that he's not playing week in, week out. So my argument on dissing on Bentancur is that this a month and a half break for Spurs and for Conte, and coupled with the potential signing of fullbacks in the January transfer window, will shift Conte's system back to a wing-back heavy system, therefore taking away those inflated attacking points that are even further inflated by his overperformance of his expected points per 90. So I'm expecting...
Hit me with those stats again, because I'm trying to make sure I understand what the argument you're trying to make about the expected points per 90 versus their actual points per 90. Because they both... Rodrigo Bentancur's...
is overperforming them, Sterling is underperforming them. That's essentially it.
But in both cases, Bentancur's per 90 and
is
his
better.
actual points per 90 are better.
It is better.
Okay,
So I'm
just making sure that we're clear on that. Okay,
yes. I'm arguing that
when
that
the fullbacks come back into the attack for Spurs. My final thing I'll say about Bentancur is that he has had offensive output before. He had 7 assists playing for Juventus in 2019-2020. So I just think he's a little bit more versatile and capable attacking player than he's often probably perceived to have. So I don't know. For now,
he's I would rate him above the likes of João Palhinha and Amadou Onana and even Ruben Neves for that reason, for that very reason that you said, that he has history of getting there or thereabouts to get some attacking returns. But he is essentially still someone who is tasked with progressing the ball, with stepping out of the defensive midfield role into a more advanced role and distributing out wide so that the attack can move forward. I think that will be his main role in the second half of the season, and that will result in a dip in expected points per 90. I will let anyone who likes or dislikes Bentancur decide on whether the fact that he's overperforming his expected points per 90 will continue, and therefore save face, even if his expected points per 90 dips. On the other hand, I am expecting the opposite for Raheem Sterling, because I think Potter is a good manager, and I think clearly Sterling at wingback is not working either in real life or in fantasy. Right. That is clear, and it should be clear to Potter.
Should be.
Once Reece James is back at right wing back, where he belongs, after a good rest during the World Cup, which he unfortunately is not gonna make this time around, the whole dynamic of the attack will shift to Reece James's role and maximizing his ability at right wing back. That will ultimately mean that a left winger position, the one that Sterling played well at Man City, will offer more value than the different wing back positions that he had been played in. My hope for Sterling is that once the defensive balance with Fofana being back and with Reece James being back is rebalanced, then he will be allowed to fill a role on the attack and therefore have more chance of attacking returns.
Okay.
So in a sense, the past numbers give us some indication of their value, but I'm expecting both of these players' value to change in the second half of the season.
I see what you're saying, but I mean, you're also factoring in a change in position, or at least a predicted change in position on that. So, so that's interesting. So, but let's talk more just like generally about the floor versus upside, right? Which is like kind of the debate that this stirred up in us. My question for the two of you was like, and I think it goes for basically every player we've talked about on this last straw list, is like, when is upside exhausted? When do we, like, at what point in the season? We're almost halfway through now, right? So when is that no longer a possibility anymore? A player had upside, but they're not living up to it, and it's time to like face the music.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's like have to look at you're basically looking at the history of the player and going, can they get to where their output is what it once was in a particular year under a certain manager, certain tactics, certain formation, whatever it might be. And how much risk is there if they don't get back to that?
Yeah.
So it's related to this thing about, if I were looking, so using this example of Sterling, if I were looking at Sterling when he played for City, and this is just the thing, this almost gets us back to the Grealish thing. It's like, well, you keep Grealish because he's in the most dynamic attacking team in maybe the history of the sport. Okay, it's like Sterling's not there anymore. He is. We've talked a lot about Mount and Havertz and 4-year-old Aubameyang. Like, this team is not City, and that's where Sterling finds himself right now, and playing wing back. Like, but the point about Bentancur is well made. Like, I can get convinced. I'm sitting here now going, I don't know, because if he does return to what Bentancur was last year with Spurs, it's like you're I'm going to pull it up real quick. I don't have that handy, but he was not anything special. I streamed him a couple times last year, and it wasn't great. So
he got a few returns, but not consistent.
But it was also
enough.
He'd only been there like for half a year at that point. Yeah. He didn't play that many games. He only started 16 total games last year, but he averaged 7.4 points a game. He's averaging 9.5 right now. So he is definitely overperforming what you'd expect probably, but he did in 17 games. He had 4 assists, Hold
on, Benji, in his last 5 matches last year, he ended fantasy scores 10.5, 5, 17, 11.5, 24 in his last 5.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. That's tasty. So maybe it's interesting. It all depends on what your confidence is rest of year for these two respective teams, and they've both had plenty of bumps in the road in the first half. So, and also, does Chelsea pull in do they get a striker or maybe more than one in January?
That would be a game changer.
I don't know what the rumors look like, but.
Yeah, no, yeah. It's a good question. Totti, you've gone on record as saying that you think that Big Todd is gonna make some moves and try to flex his proverbial muscle.
Yeah, I think I used
a different muscle that you're saying he was going to put something on the table, but we don't need to like get graphic here for the listeners. But yeah, he's going to put his manhood on the table and flex something. But you still think that's the case?
I do think that. I think we've seen how he likes to operate, and I think the fact that some people or bots, I don't know, on Twitter have actually floated the idea that Potter should be sacked after this run of 4 games, 4 winless games, or 5 now, with the Carabao Cup exit.
Yeah.
It's laughable, but it kind of resonates with the way we have seen the Todd run his operation. Obviously now he has some football people in there as opposed to how it was in the summer, but I do think that he will give Potter some sort of a transfer kitty. So I expect he will use that on a striker if he's
interesting.
Smart.
All right. Well,
but at some point again, but this is something to consider. At some point, you have to ask whether it is the unfortunate situation that Potter has never been gifted with a real goal scorer. Is that the reason his teams are not scoring well, or is it him putting together tactics that generate amazing amounts of XG and don't generate goals?
All right. Interesting. Any final thoughts on the upside versus safe floor debate?
I think profile player, that one of the key things about that would be the age of the player too. Like if it's somebody who you're hoping that their upside's going to return, or they'll capture some of that previous form, but they're like 31, 32, and maybe playing on a new club. Like that's what's intriguing about Sterling. He's only 27 years old. So if you really do believe that, the whole class is permanent thing, then that's a good argument for hanging on. And chances are you're not going to get what you want for a trade. So, and you're not going to drop him. So yeah. I'm actually just going to sit on that trade for a little bit longer and think about it. Yeah.
I think it comes down to what kind of manager you are, and it does come down to how you approach fantasy. What kind of amount of time are you willing to sacrifice for it? So it's a good argument that we had, and it's a good way that we talked about upside and how much faith do we have in players that are underperforming. But at the end of the day, if you are someone who is maybe not able to look at your teams every morning when teams come out on Saturday, if you are someone who you know yourself to be impatient and easily frustrated, then maybe Rodrigo Bentancur is the way to go. If you know that you are playing fast and loose, and you are on your phone and on Fantrax most of the waking hours that you have, then maybe, and you like going for upside, you like your players scoring either 0 or 35, then maybe Sterling is your way to go, or Grealish.
Okay. I like it. I liked it. I like it from that lens. That's nice. Okay. Well, we're going to shut it down, boys. But before we do that, let's give the listeners a couple of streamers for this week. Match day 16, a particularly tough streaming week. I might say myself. I just in looking at the options, I mean I have a conundrum at defense, especially like when looking at defenders this week. Just the thought, like the promise of a clean sheet is non-existent from basically any of these matches.
Wait till you hear what I recommend. It's not great.
Anyway, bottom line, I am having trouble. So I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say, because it's a minefield out there, man. Does anybody want to kick it off?
My criteria was look at players that are less than 50% rostered, right? Because then above that, then you're probably telling people that are in leagues where you're going to recommend players that aren't available. But starting in midfield, I did notice in our league even, and I was like, what are we doing? Maybe we should grab him. Adam Lallana, he's only had 2 starts with Mitoma. One of them he didn't do anything, and the other one he had a goal and assist and 22 points. So why not take a chance? It's at home versus Villa. So Lallana, I have.
It's not bad. Villa been leaky.
For defenders, Joel Ward, and Connor Cody. Those are the 2 players that came to mind just because of matchup. It's like, grab your players that are heading to play Nottingham Forest or Bournemouth, which is so lame. But what else are you going to do? The options are really bad. I did notice though that our friend, who we should have kept, by the way, who we don't have, but he's like less than 50% rostered, Woot Face. I'm probably not saying his name right. He is he is shot up to number 88 overall in points per start, and according to useful draft metrics, and is the number 35 overall defender with only 8 starts. Like he has started off his career with Leicester, like getting shit done.
I've picked him up
if he's available
in both of my leagues, and I actually commented to the Draft Society, DM last weekend that, and Toddy's been saying this for a long time. But I think that he was, bar none, one of the top 5, maybe top 3 signings over the summer in terms of the impact he's had on the team that he signed for.
Yeah, and another one of those ticks both boxes when you watch him play, as well as what he's doing in terms of fantasy output. So we dropped him. That was a mistake. I think we were trying to eke out a victory. And then finally, I had a Matt Target, who's only 59% rostered right now, and he's not going to start necessarily, but I would keep an eye on lineups for Newcastle because they're just they looked a little leggy, and like there's some risk of injury to some of their back line who played super well. They're in the later game on Saturday, so that's kind of a bummer. But at least if
he played in the Carabao Cup as well.
Oh,
yeah, he did.
Okay.
So, but yeah, who knows?
Maybe not this week, but a decent upside World Cup hold. I agree. Plus,
because it's Chelsea, it makes me wonder if Eddie Howe, and I feel bad for England fans that are going to be watching Trippier real closely or Callum Wilson. But if he decides to rest anybody, I think that anyone rested on that back line would probably lead to a start for Target. So,
and also last time I was on the pod 2 weeks ago, I mentioned players picking up players who are backups to players who are expected to play and start for teams that go deep.
You did mention that, yeah.
And as much as Shaw has been taken as the only left back, I do think that there's a chance we'll see some of Trippier in the World Cup. So picking up Target in a anticipating that Trippier is injured during this amazingly planned and appropriately timed World Cup is not the worst shout.
Don't worry, Sepp Blatter has already come in and made excuses publicly about the whole thing and admitted that this was not a good decision. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Of all the people we don't want to
Exactly.
hear from right now.
Go away, old man. All right. Anyway, Totti, streamers.
Okay. Yeah. I'll start with the still criminally under-rostered hype boys. I'm gonna call them. It's one of the best upcoming music duos. The hype boys.
Good.
It's Willie Nyonto and Kaoru Mitoma. Both still under 40% rostered. The mind boggles.
Well, Nyonto is 1% rostered.
Yes. Well, that's under 40%
You're right.
still.
You're right.
So, okay. So those guys, Kiefer Moore had a disappointing day last game week, but he has the chance, as I was playing one of my biggest rivals in my home league, and he had Kiefer Moore starting against me, and during the banter stage of the game week, he had said that Kiefer Moore is the 2022's Ollie McBurney, and he's going to destroy me. He didn't destroy me; I destroyed him, for the record. But Kiefer Moore does have some Ollie McBurney vibes.
I can see that.
Around him, so that's definitely someone to keep an eye on if you're short on forwards. A very deep cut is James Garner, who James Garner, is that his name?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Everton, former United midfielder, now Everton midfielder. Everton have Idris Gueye and Amadou Onana flagged for knocks, and both McNeil and Anthony Gordon are in a rut. So there's a chance that Garner will start in an attacking-ish role. So that's a decent shout against Bournemouth. And I mean, the deepest of all cuts.
Go ahead and say it. Wow.
I will say this. The architect, the Captain Fantastic, who led his team to the dismantling of their weekend's
This is the
opponent in the Carabao Cup, won Junior Stanislas. Contributed to a 4-1 victory over Everton in the midweek game with an assist and a goal, was man of the match, was captain for the day for Bournemouth. Surely it is the stars are aligning for him to get the second run out to play against Bournemouth and finally start getting my bold take prediction from before the season up and running, which was that Junior Stanislas would have more direct free kick goals this season than James Ward-Prowse.
Oh boy.
It's definitely going to happen. Don't worry, buddy.
I mean, Ward-Prowse is still, I think, on 1 this season, or maybe 2, but definitely not more than 2. So, I mean, I can see Stanislas catching up to him this weekend.
Yeah, and speaking of 32-year-old attacking players that are past their prime and are probably never going to have that upside again, but maybe for a stream, I'd love it for a stream. But yeah, be ready to.
Well,
drop
it's definitely
quickly.
only a stream, right, Totti? Like you're not. I mean,
yeah, exactly. It's a great job for a stream.
Yeah, obviously a stream. I mean, even I haven't picked him up yet.
Kiefer Moore has. I was like expecting, just a banging amount of Ariel's won, which there've been a lot, but he's got like 34. Mitrovic has 62. Yeah. I mean,
Mitrovic is a man. I mean, he's just a man.
He just lives up there.
He really.
Yeah. This is primary reason
really
for existence.
Surprised most of us.
Yeah.
But props to people who anticipated this from Mitrovic. That's one of the wins of the season. All right, gents. Well, it's streaming, like we mentioned, listeners, is rough this week, but best of luck. This is probably one of those weeks where I definitely should say, like I always do, if you have conundrums, let us know. Tag us on Twitter. We'll retweet it. Get the community's thoughts on it. Get people to weigh in. There's a lot of smart minds on there. Let's just get a lot of people thinking about this week and the potential that players have, because it's going to be a tough one if you don't have your lineup already set. So, get everyone involved. And as usual, you are the best community. You're amazing. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for your just continual cheerleading of the site, of the work that we do. We appreciate you, and we truly do love you, community. Benji, amazing to have you on again. We appreciate it. You're the best. Yeah.
Thanks, boys.
Stream of consciousness, Benji. I'm here for it every time. Great. And Totti, of course. Have an amazing week, brother.
You guys too.
We'll talk to everyone soon. This has been the KPC. Cheers.